From the Steam sales, humble indie bundles, and even to the consoles, Broken Age has spread itself across the market it had not previously been. When I was first introduced to Broken Age, I was caught by the documentary on its creation, headed by Tim Schafer, designer of games like Grim Fandango and Monkey Island. In the years since his previous successes, he's realized that the people today wanted a little bit of what they had been missing, and thus came up with a new story altogether.
There's my little angel.
The beauty of the documentary, made along with Broken Age, is that it shows that thousands of people still want the exact adventure they had been missing. After $3.5 million had been raised and the stakes as well, Tim Schafer and Double Fine Production Company had a lot to live up to. But I would not start Broken Age knowing this. What I knew, or rather what I found out, was the beauty in storytelling and how I personally came to love the story of a boy and a girl. When I first played Broken Age, I was enticed by its dual story style. Though it's a single player story, I saw it as a chance to play a game alongside somebody I love, me playing Shay's story and her playing Bella's. We enjoyed the puzzles together and laughed as we contemplated our next move. Broken Age makes you feel like your choice is one in a very large scheme, but doesn't overburden you with possible secrets, collectibles, or achievements. I rather found myself wanting to ask all the questions and exploring all the passageways for possible dialogue.
My name is Marek, and what I'm about to show you is no game.
It simply draws you in with one of the two parallel stories. Playing as the boy had me frustrated at first. It was very easy to tell that the idea was for me to feel that way, but I'm not sure if that's ever a good thing or a bad thing. Difficulty is one aspect that can frustrate any gamer, but when it comes to difficulty bearing the gameplay in general, that's another.
Come see me.
The life of Shay had been monotonous and boring every single day, though I can't say cereal every day is boring.
Yikes.
However, the constant mothering would make anyone want to escape. Escaping became this game of staying up late and finding real adventure.
I'm free in space.
It's almost a game of Inception, escaping to escape.
Now what?
The further I got with Shay, the more danger I put myself in. But I felt the risk was eased and allowed me to truly enjoy the dialogue.
Fusion orb inhibited.
While choices were given, for those who found out the solution or just wanted to move forward, I found it interesting to read each comment and hear the excellent voice acting.
Just as soon as you get control of those boom arms and navigate this ship to Prima Doom.
Check.
I was ready to escape the ship prison he lived in, but I was not enthralled by the amount of repetition and door travel there was throughout. Travel is made easy by double-clicking, but doors seem to lead to the most awkward of places with seemingly no connection. The most frustrating puzzle had to have been the teleporting sequence, where you had to shrink your head just enough to move forward. Though it was easy to find out how each one-way teleporter worked, each line of text was repetitive, slow to move, and had me going through 10 door sequences before its end. Though I was presented with a clear problem and a clear solution, text is typically used for the items that you need to use next.
Hey, Space Weaver, can you take me here?
Though I appreciated the tidbits of story I got from clicking on random objects, I wish I had as much substance as the Sacrifice Girl story before the end of Act 1.
She was honored with a special duty. Some people would call it a sacrifice, but what she didn't realize at the time was that it was a great honor.
When I switched stories, or rather, when it was chosen for me, I loved the immediate display of amusing characters as well as the artistic style, more so than Shay's story.
Whoa.
While the depiction of voice acting of Shay and his mother were beautifully done, Bella and the inhabitants of the town of Sugar Bunting, a town of talented and subservient bakers, had more depth. The moment Bella was baked into a cake and set up on the stage like a chopped liver, I sat in shock on how Tim Schafer could come up with such a ridiculous but unique idea. I immediately sided with Bella's frustration, asking myself, why is everyone so bonkers? Escaping had to have been the most satisfying aspect of Sugar Bunting and the Plague Dam, but it was nothing in comparison to the colony in the clouds, filled with birds and crackpot philosophies, and not restricted by the limitations of one inside sea. I never thought I would want to leave the clouds, but the amount of weird lifestyles amounted to a higher level of weird than I could handle. When I finally met the leader, I was done and ready to leave, finding yet another town, other than the first, that was way too ridiculous to change. While the first town made Vela realize adults make mistakes for their children to live with, Merloth took a left turn into irresponsibility. While I did enjoy the four-path puzzle that took a lifetime to solve, I couldn't help but notice the amount of instances where I would be saying lines of text that had no context but to give me an object. The smallest stutter step was enough to pull me out of the story flow entirely. The last scenes for Vela exist on 4 panels: the hipster lumberjack, the talking tree, shell mound, and the Deadeye God pyramid. The final big puzzle that combines all these interactions took a bit of time to make sense, which was fitting for the end of Act 1. Finishing it, I found myself realizing all the pieces I needed to stop the final Mock Chothra ceremony, but once again text is confusing and seems to give no reason or context to the words you say. I learned that later, most of the interactions towards the end actually have a purpose only to the Deadeye God pyramid, which made for a lot of backtracking and talking to people again, in the few cases where I could. It felt as if the game pushed me to go to the end, only to realize I needed to go back, and again, because of a specific line of text that needed to appear first. Going through the game again, I knew the pieces I needed and I could skip all the random dialogue. But even after putting the game down for a few months for Act 2's release, I forgot once more and went through the same frustrations instead of enjoying the puzzles like I used to. The main factor that I wished it had is the replay value that they promised. Though I play those same puzzles and talk to those same people, I wish there was little tidbits that I miss that maybe I could just go through again. Watching the successes and failures of Broken Age made me have a new respect for the gaming industry entirely. Though the adventure may have obstacles, getting over those hardships made Broken Age that much more worthwhile. When I met the end, I was able to sit back and watch all of my work unfold. I couldn't help but be completely baffled by its sudden ending, but I was all the more surprised when I found out there would be an Act 2 and another chance to play these two people again. Finishing the documentary, I couldn't see any other way of playing a game but by knowing every aspect about it. By being fully invested, I could never be truly disappointed, because the time, effort, sweat, and tears made something for me, a gamer.